The following podcast may be explicit. One Joe Young presents Adventures from the Shed, a tabletop RPG podcast. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com.
Computer. All right, and we should be recording. I said that really loud, didn't I? And here we are, coming back at you. Adventures from the Shed 2.0 beta version, gone online and screaming instead of streaming. And I'm going to hit this gallery.
The alpha and the beta version at the same time.
So here I am Joe. And with me tonight are a couple of familiar faces, if you've watched our YouTube stuff. The first will go alphabetically by first name. State your name, please.
This is Chris. You've seen me on the podcast and YouTube. Or you heard me on the podcast.
Did you have to look to see? Did you have to look to see if C came before R? Was that it?
No, I can't figure it out. Yeah, unless we're going by last name alphabetical. Yeah.
There you go. Then I'm always last, and I was first. So actually, we could go reverse alphabetical by last name. Who's next?
Hi, it's Randy. You guys might know me as the remote guest.
Yeah, Randy, our first remote guest, the talking head on the screen. That was cool.
It was quite entertaining, actually. It was quite fun.
I enjoyed it a lot because I got to play with more technology, and that's what I like to do. So here we are. I am not actually in the shed, but I do have my green screen with the fancy logo.
Yeah, I was going to say something about that. I wish I had a green screen. I have nothing.
I cheated and used Zoom's like background stuff to put up a gunship album cover on the background there.
There you go. Although
I'm allowed to
Pokemon
talk,
qualifies you.
little props to gunship.
That works.
So we are going to be talking today about how we get a group together in a role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game, what this world is like now with us having to do stuff online. I guess technically we don't have to, but we are. And it's just going to make it a lot easier to finally get something going again. We know the podcast has been on hiatus, except for me talking to myself in a room a couple of times since, what was it, August? June, July, I can't remember when it was. Last year, far too long ago. And we're going to get back at it. I was going to say,
you and I had the car chat, and then, yeah, it's been me ever since, yeah.
The anniversary one, because I didn't want to miss that.
I almost drew a picture of you guys in the car with a little bubble coming out from the trunk saying, "Help me, let me out." Kurt.
That would have been cool. We ought to add that. We should, definitely. So let's...
well, Kurt's probably in the trunk still, so... You know.
Kurt, yes. I do plan on having Kurt join us a couple of times here or there because why not? He's just a blast.
Yeah, you got to have Kurt in there.
Oh, yeah.
So we go back now 4 years plus with the podcast, which is great. I think both of you guys have listened to all of them at one point or another or been a part of them. And the way we're going to continue online does pose some challenges for us. One being... the whole idea with, I know Chris is familiar with the online meeting stuff. Randy, I don't know how much you've dealt with Zoom and other software, but
just a little bit.
Yeah, one of the big challenges is we need to know to shut up to let other people talk. That's an important piece here because of how mixed up the communications get. So one of the things that I'm practicing, because I hate the dead air and I still want to do the audio portion of this podcast, is I'm practicing talking a little less to make sure other people get to talk as well. When we're doing the regular audio podcast, I just fill in the gaps and, I can adjust the levels and hear over each other and all that. This is a little different. So, Chris, do you think you can shut up? Yes, he can. Isn't that great?
Guess so.
Nailed it. What do you think, Chris, are going to be some of the challenges we're going to face here starting a D&D 5th edition low-level campaign over this media?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be the audio issues, bandwidth issues, depending on, what people's got for interactions, which these days, I don't know, it shouldn't be a huge issue, right? But everybody's doing this, right? Everybody's having Zoom chats, virtual hangouts and whatnot because of the situation. So we might see some lag depending on things like that. But I don't know. Yeah, the big thing is talking over each other. And I think I want to say Zoom has settings to kind of automatically adjust audio volumes and stuff on your mic. So
Yep.
Hopefully we won't blow anybody's ears out when we're laughing or, getting kind of crazy with certain things, especially when we're
I
role
use
playing, right?
that.
Depending on your character.
I found a neat thing with that setting is if you look at that setting with the automatically adjust the levels of the mic, the checkbox, if you uncheck it, you can adjust the level it starts from and then check the box again. So if you find overall when you test your mic, it's too quiet, you can uncheck the box, move the level up and then check it again. And it will start at a higher volume and adjust from there, which is kind of neat. So I messed with that a bit and we'll see how it ends up, but so far it's gone pretty well. To your point with the bandwidth, I've got 3 other people in the house, and I think the last check I did on I'm one of the geeks that has a smartphone or smart home and a smartphone for that matter, but the last time I looked on my Google Wi-Fi, I've got 67 things connected to it. So there's always something going on here. Somebody's always streaming, but I'm going to see if I can get people to not stream at the time we're playing, right? I'll get people to watch a VHS tape or something.
All right, I want to see how well these are going to go. Let's go.
Ooh, I see a 15. 2.
2.
Well, it sounds good so far.
Well, and I can see an 18 and 20.
Yeah. That reminds me, there was another thing that I had tried to check up on. So, Randy, that's something I was going to ask you as well, because I was asking Chris about the technology. What do you think about character sheets and dice? How do you think we're going to be doing that?
I think if we individually have a copy, but you running the show has the main copies as well, then you'll be able to keep track of our characters as we keep track at home as well. We just got to be true to each other and not lie about what dice you roll when we're making the characters and whatnot, and we should be able to pull this off. I've heard other podcasts that have continued even with being at home and doing the remote thing, so we should be able to do this. Even a little bit of 2 people talking at once, as long as one person backs down, you should be able to do it without too much confusion and whatnot. So,
yeah, that's a good point. Knowing conceding that somebody else may be ready to say something more important is something I need to do. I may be starting to say something to fill a gap, and someone else is starting to talk, and I got to back off so that they can actually say something of content instead of me just filling a gap. So that's an important part. One of the things I was going to try here, this is just a technology thing. I loaded an app or whatever on top of Zoom that's supposed to help with dice rolling. And I was going to mess with that, but in case you see something happen in the chat, that's just me. And I don't even know if that's going to be recorded. So it's all part of learning and experimenting and what have you. But
you mean you don't want to hear this all the time?
Oh, actually, I think the sound is great. I would still want to do that.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed.
So I'm going to type that and see what happens. Nothing.
I only have a couple dice, by the way, just a few.
And the Crown Royal bag, the standard staple of the dice.
Definitely.
Classy.
Yes. So, Chris, what do you think of? Say that's not working. What do you think of low-level D&D game to start? What's your opinion? It's an introductory thing.
Especially if we start. It's the whole first level, hey, but it's so easy to get killed. I don't know. I think the super fun gaming play is always between 4 and 8. I think you're a little beefy. You're not super powerful, 12 or higher. Then you're just wading through people like fields of wheat. But yeah, it could be dangerous. It could still be fun, but it's easy to get wasted. It's easy to get the TPK by accident.
Yeah. But that's one way, like Randy said, being true to what's going on and lying. I'll definitely fudge some rolls to keep the level 1 characters alive. That's easy enough, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have any problem lying to keep low levels alive.
I like low levels because you get to watch your character grow and you don't have to figure out everything you want to do with your character right away. So that's just my 2 cents about it.
Cool. I like starting it that way, especially because it'll be new people in a new format and it'll be less things to pay attention to, right? You don't have all of the skills yet, all the equipment, all of the modifiers that are needing to be added. And that's, it can definitely hinder the start of a game if you wanted to start at level 10, because now you've got to pick what is it, level 3 or 4, where almost all classes have something extra that you diverge to, and there's just a lot of that stuff that has to happen.
Speaking of levels, what game I'm assuming we're starting with D&D, but I mean, I didn't want to assume anything.
Say that last part again. D&D what?
I mean, because we're talking about levels and all that jazz. So are we trying to play D&D? Are we trying to play something else?
Yeah, it'll be D&D 5th
Dungeon
edition.
World fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge Dungeon World fan. Yeah, I figure we'll get there, but I wanted to do something that was common. And I figure the D&D 5th edition. I'll start with little homebrewed kind of one-shot thing that will probably last, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours maybe, and see where it goes from there. But I figured that way everyone gets a chance to get in a groove, maybe, to Randy's point, learning a new character, growing with it, turning on the interrogation spotlight. Ooh, dark
I'm just trying to figure out the best lighting, and that's not really working for me.
If you point it behind you, does it make a difference? Chris has the solar eclipse behind him.
It's just because it's on that side of my face.
It's kind of neat. I don't know if you're a Star Trek original series fan, but you're like the guys that were black on one side, white on the other side, in the silver uniforms.
Right.
I haven't seen Star Trek in a long time.
Well,
it might have been close to that stuff.
So the experience that we want to talk about too is past experience. So, Chris, what have you? And I know we've covered this in the podcast before, but as a new format, let's talk about some of it again. What have you done in your tabletop RPG gaming history? Gulp.
As in what? Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah, what's your experience?
Having adult beverages.
Speaking of lying, what's your RPG resume?
I've only played video games now. I started out with D&D, basic edition back in the day, like early '80s. Well, I've been playing for a long time. Actually, that's like a long time. Mostly D&D. Switched, and then we got into like the Marvel RPG stuff, like the old school Marvels, like the face rip, stat thing, and then a little bit of Star Frontiers at the time. That didn't last too long. Boot Hill was another one. Yeah, and then Gamma World, and then into like some of the I think it was the Palladium stuff, which is like a Robotech, and then like their fantasy stuff too. And then I think the latest thing I got into was not super new, came out in the mid '80s, but I didn't get to it till like the mid to late '90s with Cyberpunk 2020. And then obviously Dungeon World, any variation of D&D except for version 4, because that didn't interest me at all. Seems like it was very video game-ish on the setup.
How about you, Randy?
That's my tabletop action.
Well, I'm not going to call them versions this time because that was kind of dumb last time. I played second edition is how I started out. When I first started playing with that guy I told you guys about last time, he played with these his own homebrew rules. He created these things called bogeys, where you had a chart of like 20 things and you rolled a d20 and you got that special bonus thing. So that was unique. Other than that, thing that he used to play all the time, I've played 3.5, one session of 4. I played Pathfinder and a Diablo version that was on paper as well, which was basically 3.5. And it was so the most I played is like Pathfinder and 3.5.
When it comes to genres like the medieval fantasy, the space, the Wild West, what kind of genre do you prefer, Randy? What fits for you to play?
I've always been into knights and stuff, so medieval is definitely my route. Mech Warrior, I played something like that too with the bubbles. Yeah, and a vampire game as well. Thinking back.
Yeah, I agree. Same.
Yeah. With the bubbles. You're talking about the sheets that you had to mark all the little dots on?
Yeah, on the little, I almost called them Gundams, the little mechs. They all had like different amounts. I played one session of that. That was pretty cool.
I think I still have some of that. I think it was Mech Warrior. That it used originally it was called something Droid, and they had to take the word droid out, and it was kind of neat. Anyway, Chris, what about you? What genre fits for Mr. Wakulik?
Definitely medieval fantasy. I was always into the fantasy. I've always been a sci-fi fantasy guy, but I started out like super young watching Conan the like stuff I should have been watching, like Conan the Barbarian, actually the rated R version of Excalibur when I was in grade school. So I was big into that stuff. Can't get away from it. It's just too cool.
Cool. And when it comes to playing, I'll stick with you for now, Chris. What class do you like in, or what role might be a better word, do you like in that setting, the medieval fantasy setting?
That's a tough one. I don't know why I keep going back to thieves a lot because of just the deception, trickery, and like the problem solving. But I do like a kick-ass paladin, like that whole righteous, smite evil type of guy.
Go Paylor. Although that was a cleric.
Yeah,
he was close enough to a paladin.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, he could have been. Just would have been fewer spells. But yeah. How about you, Randy?
I tend to go towards rangers, usually with monkey grip, with the 2 arms swinging with swords.
Monkey
it's pretty
grip. Kung Fu grip ranger. G.I. Joe ranger.
I don't know why. I like a nice mix of range and up close combat if we need to, just so he's not useless at any point. But still, not a lot of health.
Yeah. I like to not be useless at any point if I can avoid it. I like that. The other thing I'm curious of, because I don't remember if I've ever asked you guys this before, but it's something that we just kind of played when we played the games. Do you like a low fantasy or a high fantasy? Do you like wizards really run the whole world? Everyone has magic. Or if you're talking sci-fi, it'd be like the Force and everyone's got a phaser or a laser gun or something like that, right? Or do you like the more, nitty-gritty, talking sci-fi again, if you're familiar with Firefly, where they do have spaceships, but they've got revolvers and, gunpowder weapons and what have you. Where along that scale would you say you like to play? You guys pick who goes next.
Goes Randy first on that one.
There you go, Randy.
Man, I could take either or. If you're twisting my arm, super fantasy, like the Star Wars stuff that you were talking about. I love Firefly to death, but I would still choose like the wizards taking over the world and stuff, and big epic battles of
lots of magic is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Chris?
Yeah, I'm the opposite of that. Although I do appreciate it, I don't like that straight out of the gate. I'm a little more like, I think Game of Thrones kind of did it well. It's kind of gritty and hardcore. And there's magic there, but it was in your face. It did exist, and it wasn't not necessarily easy to access for everybody. It was kind of. Or I like stuff where like you use magic really drains you. It's something takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your soul.
Ooh, on your soul. Yeah. Do you remember Kurt was doing wild magic, I think, with his sorcerer, and he turned into a potted plant a couple of times.
With the potted
plant.
I'm drunk still.
Exactly. That's definitely why he's it goes along with what you were saying about it takes a toll on you, right? I mean, in D&D, really, the aftermath, there's no toll, but at the time, there's a big toll there when you're trying to do something like that. Right. But I like lasting effects for stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Dragonlance series of books, and I don't know if they did an animation. They had modules too for D&D, but one of the characters in there's a twin brother set. One guy was a fighter, the other guy was a mage. And he was very sickly. Like the magic was destroying him anytime he used it, which I thought was really cool. You didn't see that too often in the fantasy world.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wizards usually weak, but they can still sling the magic and then sleep and do it again, right? So
yeah.
It's a good
or
point.
even the Excalibur film, I think Merlin had to sleep for ages. That when he pulled some crazy spell off, he's like, man, I slept for months because of that crap. I thought that was cool.
I should have pulled a bigger rabbit out of my hat. Damn it!
Yeah,
enough to feed people at least.
I've heard of a full rest, but this is ridiculous.
It's a really. It's like what a quadruple full rest $1 million or something. Yeah. That's actually that brings me to another thing here. When we're playing, and I know you're familiar with this from the podcast, but the plan is, as I had posted it, to run a fast-paced D&D game. Essentially, if anything comes up and we don't know it, or if there's a rule interfering with proceeding, we're just going to go. And then if we want to look the rule up afterwards and apply that there forward, that's great. But we're not going to go back and change things after the fact. But the idea is to just move forward. And I think, to my knowledge, you guys both agree with that, if not like it. What are your thoughts on it, Chris?
No, I definitely agree with that, especially in the podcast format. We want to keep things moving, and that even when you did it before, like all the short rests were considered long rests, right? It was just like, we're tough, we're heroes, and we're going to get over it. Yeah, definitely smart move. I agree.
Damn right, Randy. What do you think?
No, I definitely agree as well. I told you how boring it was when another podcast just kept on going left through a door and over again, and finally, after 45 minutes, literally, went the right way. Don't keep it slow. Keep it moving. Keep people entertained.
Yep. And that brings me to another point that we're familiar with from doing the podcast, being there and listening to it, but the idea of trying not to get stuck at any certain spot. Now, a lot of that is on me to push things forward, but there's also the idea that I like to have the players very well vested and invested in what they're doing, so that the characters are more important, the world is more important. So I think you're familiar with when I put together a puzzle, usually the solution that comes out of the puzzle is something a player said because it was better than what I thought of to begin with. Right. So I may say that in order for you guys to open this box, there's a combination on the front and it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And somebody else comes up with an idea of, well, the box is made of metal and I can, I have this thing that can melt metal and I'm just going to melt the lock off of it. Like, well, great. That's it. You got it. That's how you open it. I don't care about the combination anymore. You do what you do and that's it.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing will happen. And we know, you guys are familiar with just the players helping to move the story, to keep everything moving along. And that's something, of course, I'll still be leaning on you guys for, because other people have more ideas than I do, especially when there's 4 other ones sitting around at the same place trying to do the same thing. You guys will come up with better ideas than me. That way I look good. And, well, I like that.
Meant for it to be that way.
Exactly. Randy, have you run any games yet, or have you just been a player?
I told you this separately, that I was once trying to make an RPG, still kind of am, haven't touched in a while, called Bots, about this robot army that took over the world and everything. I used to run a version of that when I was 17. It was Roll20 and just my own made up stuff, but I have ran a campaign of sorts. Just I've never really ran anything official.
Cool.
So cool. I still try to make it fun the best I can, even if it's my own made up crazy world.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it made me think, because I wasn't positive, so I wanted to ask you, but that means that the 5 people who will be involved in the podcast as we get started have all run games at some point, DM, GM, whatever. And I'm thinking this is essentially, 5 GMs walk into a meeting and here's what happens. I think that's going to help make it more fun, because I know as when we run a game, there's always things we want to do, and then they don't happen because the players messed it up, right? We always say that. But then on the player side, there are things you're like, man, I wish this was here, so that when you go to GM a game, you're like, oh, now I can do that. So there's definitely going to be a bit of that going on. And I think that's pretty cool. Hey, nice mute trigger there, Randy. That was nice.
Oh, yeah. Just
nice.
Press the button real quick.
Yeah, I'll have to set one up.
I actually coughed 1 million times in the last one. You can actually see me just randomly coughing. I was pausing the thing left and right. I was really sick that January.
Yeah, I think I was sick that most of that year. Allergies, man.
Yeah, every January through March, April, I'm always losing my voice. It didn't happen this year for some reason, but it tends to happen. It's not pleasant, and it's I just want to sing, or I just want to do voices. I can't even do voices. What's going on?
I just wanted the voices. The other thing I wanted to say, if you don't mind me saying it, Randy, is congratulations on tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we are very excited to welcome our son into the world.
Very cool.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm guessing this is a scheduled birth, or
Yes,
okay.
he's not due until the 27th, but we scheduled a C-section, and actually, my best friend just had his son today, so we're having back-to-back kids.
That's very cool, because one of my best friends growing up, I knew the guy till I was maybe 20 or so. He was born 6 hours before me in the same hospital, so we were pretty much in the same nursery. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
We didn't know it. We didn't even know each other till we were about 9 or 10 years old, but that's pretty cool. Man, that's nice. So yeah, another part of this, and we were talking about, this is how we get a group together. Especially when we're just talking, we want to talk to each other, find out how things are going, right? I mean, Chris knows, gosh, we would get together from about 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. or so and get 3 hours of recording out of that 6 hour time frame, because there's just a lot of hanging out and having fun, and we'll do some of that, I'm sure. And this session is kind of like that, where we're just trying to get together, get to know each other again in some cases, and learn the new folks and see how things are going to mesh as we go. Any questions you guys have for me about how this is going to work?
Are you going to run it? Granted, Dungeon World's more storytelling, and this is going to be some D&D, but it is homebrew. Are you still kind of going to run it your usual Dungeon World-esque way, where you're leaving a lot of blanks to be filled in by the players? Or are you going to have it a little more static, I guess?
Yeah, it's going to be like that. The adventure I'm going to put together will be, like I said, it'll be a one-shot, but there will be just a skeleton. I'll know what the quest is, who the bad person is, maybe one city, and what the politics are like and the weather's like in the area. That's it.
Problem is, with a game like this, I mean, you make something that you want players to do, and they'll do something totally different.
Yeah. And so I'll do stuff like that, and then somebody will say, well, my character's from this city, and I'll say, all right, now I know the name of the city, so I didn't have to think of the name, right? We put those things together. But yeah, that the way I'm hoping it'll work out, like I said, is we'll put a lot of stuff on the table when we get the 5 of us together on I'm going to say on the table, right? When we get the 5 of us together, we'll talk about what the expectations are for the first actual play session. And from there, I think it'll answer more of those questions, because I know what my expectations are now, because I've been trying to put it together. But if we're all together at the same time and we say, well, we actually want to start at level 2 because I want 2 hit dice. Well, okay, then we'll do that. But that's the kind of thing that we'll just figure out as we go. But it'll be straightforward, I guess, is the easiest way to look at it. One of the things that I will want to do is I'll ask everybody just to use stuff from the player's handbook to start. You know, we pick a race and a class from the player's handbook. I know now what is there, like 15 or more playable races and about 2 jillion classes or something you can pick from all the different books in 5th edition now. And I want to try and stick to the core stuff so that we can just work on base mechanics and get together and make a story out of it. So, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep looking back. I hear a dog at my door, and it's like,
do you have a dog?
We have 4 dogs.
Okay.
Dog.
Because you didn't have one.
I only have a hamster. What is that?
He's like, this isn't even my house.
This is not my beautiful wife.
All right, you got it. That's where I'm going.
Yes. I can't remember who it was. That was it Men at Work?
Talking Head.
Talking Heads. Damn it. They're the same band to me.
David Byrne.
Yeah, I was late because I had to wait for the family to leave.
Completely different.
There you go. I had to wait for the family to leave so that he could get on the computer and join. Nice.
Yeah. I'm pounding this. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So is the plan to get like a session for character generation, that kind of thing? Or we're going to do it on our own and come together later?
I think so. I guess the way I would put it is our session 0 will be where we'll all talk to each other, get to know each other, maybe decide on what kind of characters people want. And I'll give, a high level of what the area is going to be like so that people might want to tailor a character towards it. And then what I would guess is people should, I don't know, flesh out their character. You can flush it out if you want to.
Oh, this
But
one
you can-
sucks.
Yes. After you're done pounding your salad, you can flush out your character.
Well, that's what happens.
But the idea for me at least will be we'll get into the first session, and it'll be an introduction of your character, not necessarily a creation, but it should also be, call it a finalization. If people want to link characters together, maybe two are brothers or they were just from the same place or they know each other in some way, right? That we can do as well. Excuse me. And that, I guess that's the way I'm thinking it'll start off. The other thing I was going to mention is what I've been asking the other folks so far is kind of around the logistics of getting stuff done so that we can post it. So first off, like we've been trying to do it as an hour a week for the time that the podcast has been, the release, 1 episode a week, an hour a week. And we'd previously been doing that by recording between 3 and 4 hours every 3 or 4 weeks. My thought around this is, do we try something like 2 hours every other week? Do we try to get 3 hours in and, skip a couple of weeks? Or, depending on if people want to try and get things ready quick and move quick, do we try to do every week for about an hour? And, that even opens itself up to possibly streaming it at the time and then, posting it separately after. There's just a lot of choices there. And I'm curious what you guys think about that. Randy, you first.
I think it'd probably be smarter to bank a couple just in case someone needs to miss a week or two. So I'm more fond of the going for 3 to 4 hours. It'll probably be more like 5 or 6 with the talking.
Yeah.
But, it just seems like the smarter way to go about it.
And just so you know, too, one of the reasons I wanted to make sure I had 5 people total, so 4 players myself, is that I plan to go on if one person's not there during a session, so to speak. We'll still play. We won't skip a session in that case because we don't have to worry about people traveling and all that. We can still just get together quick, get something done, and and move on. So I do plan on doing that. Chris, what do you think? What works good for you?
Yeah, minimum to every other. I think that would be. And I'm fine with bank it every 3 to 4 weeks and do 4 hours worth. But we could even try the every other week for a couple hours, depending on how much time people can make available.
I'm down for that as well.
And what time works for you guys? I know what my schedule is, but typically my work day is 7 to 4 Eastern. So usually at night is fine during the week, and then weekends I can usually make the time whenever. I do have some commitments, but none of them are really all the time, every week kind of thing. Randy, what do you have for a schedule aside from a new baby?
Yeah, other than baby stuff, I'm pretty clear for the most part, usually in the later evening, probably after the toddler's gone to bed. So Monday through Friday, worst case scenario, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Okay. So whenever, not too late on a work night, but I had school in the morning.
Yeah.
Or banking on early weekends when everyone's sleeping is probably the easiest as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure how early or late we'll be able to do it. One of the guys is in Arizona, but when I was talking to him, he's like, I'm just going to make this work. So I'm guessing he'd get up at 2 in the morning if we wanted to play at 5. So, but I think we're good. Chris, what about you for that schedule?
Pretty much the same. I mean, I'm starting a new job, so I don't know. But the way we were talking originally, it was kind of like, just show up to the meetings and get your work done. I don't really care what the time is. So I'm going to try to do an early thing like I used to, either 6 to 3 or 7 to 4. And then, weekends are pretty much the same. If I don't have stuff with the baby going on or whatever, then it doesn't matter. I don't really have anything else going on right now.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Cause that's one thing that for me is still way up in the air, because realistically we can say we're going to play for 2 hours. It's going to take 10 to 15 minutes for everybody to get on and say hi. right? So it's at least that's at least going to make it 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then we'll want to take a break at some point, I'm sure, or somebody will. And maybe we stop for a little bit. Or if I'm doing the 1 hour episodes and recording it that way, then I will hit a stop and then I'll hit record again, and we'll probably take a short break in between, right? So until we really get going, for me, it's still a tough one. I would like to see getting a 3 hour day or a 3 hour tour, a 3 hour tour.
3 hour tour.
There we go. I'd like to get that in, but I think when we go to 3 hours, that's going to look more like 4 to 4.5 hours of total time. And I think that the more hours we try and do in one day, the more real time it's going to add on to the recorded time, so to speak. So it's all up in the air. Now, I don't have to leave home. I assume you guys don't have to leave home to get this done. So it's going to make it a little easier. I know it can also introduce some obstacles like kids crying in the background, strangers, hamsters scratching at your door, whatever it may be. But
homeowners coming to kick you out of their office. Yeah.
Whenever that guy shows up, man, you are in trouble.
What are you doing in here? Get out.
Get out. We have, we're going to keep the same, let's call it the same rating that the following podcast may be explicit. So I'm not going to care so much about swearing. What we're going to care about, though, is the same as we always have. It's going to be situational. Words don't hurt people, right? It's how you use them that hurts people. So even though we can swear, we also want to steer clear of hurtful things, and that's really what it comes down to. And I was telling this to one of the other guys because he actually asked me about censoring ourselves, and I said there are just some things we won't talk about, and I can't tell you what they are right now because I'm not going to talk about them. Right? Now maybe off the air we can talk about something, but the point is it's not going to be on the podcast. He made a funny there too. He said it's just part of his regular speech to throw an F-bomb or shit in every now and then, right? And he says, I was kind of hoping you'd say I had to censor myself so I could come up with just saying, no, what the beep, and just work like that. And I said, you can still do that. That's awesome. Everyone should have a shtick like your hamster.
What the
There you go.
I muted it and stopped talking, so that made no sense at all.
Oh, I heard a ding. Somebody got a message.
Mine's on mute.
I
could just hit this guitar.
And that's another point was we've always said this on the podcast, and I know it's a cliche, but we're all adults. We can handle if you need to, grab your phone and take a message or something, just do it. It's not really, if you know what you're going to do is going to interrupt somebody else's enjoyment of the game, don't do that. But if you got to get up, somebody's yelling in the background, your hamster's eating your salad, whatever it may be, you're welcome to just take care of it while we're going, mute, whatever you need to do. So that's easy stuff. I know Chris is very familiar with that. He stepped out of the shed more than once. Yeah. So you've got a guitar. No, you have to pick up the guitar and smash it over the drums.
All right. Yes.
Nice.
Is that good?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't ask for more than what I asked for, I guess. And it worked.
Pleasure to be of service.
Fantastic.
If only I had a crazy solo.
If you could do that on the acoustic, sure. And
if
it's banging, play a bard, man.
Jamming and banging my Johnson.
Nice.
Where's that thing? It's back there in the corner.
You could see my Johnson's back in the corner somewhere too.
You can.
It's all about my Johnson.
Right there.
Yeah, good job.
It's over there somewhere.
No, it's like
that's cool. So I'm curious if you guys have any initial thoughts of what you might play. What's of interest to you for a new character idea?
Before we answer, have the other guys said anything yet about character collabs?
I haven't asked. Because for me, talking to them, first time I ever talked to either guy, and it was half an hour, 45 minutes, almost an hour of just talking about stuff. And we really didn't start talking about what we would be doing because that was going to be session 0 stuff.
I'm going to see if I can't pull something up real quick. So if you want to go first, Chris, feel free.
Like I mentioned before, I don't know. I haven't played a thief or a paladin in forever, so it's one of those things where I'm going to see what everybody else got and see what I can, fill in the spaces. Really,
Yeah. You play a Rogadin.
And Joe, I assume you're kind of running like your old stuff. Like, hey, if everybody picked thieves, that's just the way I'm running the campaign. You guys.
Hell yeah.
You'll just have to figure things out if you don't have a cleric or a magic user.
The best balanced party is the one where players got to pick the classes they wanted. That's the best balance for me. If you had to pick a class you didn't want to pick because you think it's good for party balance, that's not good balance. So yeah. If we end up with 4 rogues, well, then there's probably going to be more traps and locked boxes than if there were 4 wizards. Or there will be less, and we'll make something more dangerous and sneaky and all that, right? Well, definitely, you get to play what you want to play, not what you feel you have to play.
Okay, so I had an idea for a character I was going to do when I was considering an online session with a couple of my friends, but it fell through because I wasn't sure if I could get the time to go and do that at the time. What would you think would be the best class for a former innkeeper?
Former innkeeper? Actually, Chris mentioned Bard. I think Bard might be pretty cool because my first thought was, what did an innkeeper have a lot of exposure to while keeping the inn? First, there's adventurers, so you could say generically you've met everybody. But if maybe you're also the bartender, or you clean up or tidy the place up, chances are there's wandering minstrels and stuff that come by and play for food and drink and entertain people. And I just think that might be neat. As an innkeeper, you're exposed to a lot of house bands, and now you think you're a musician.
Well, it might make sense for Chris to go and play a thief if he wants to with the backstory that I made. I just sent it to you guys so we can talk about it another time, but it was a really interesting character that I was trying to decide. It'd be cool if we got a nice party going of various classes, but as you said, multiple thieves, that'd be kind of funny too.
Yeah, definitely. I was I used to mention one of my favorite old time experiences was when there was just fighters in the party and every door was locked. Well, when everything looks like a nail, you have to be using your fighter hammer, and everything had to be broken, and that made it, to me, that just made it so it was like, this is really neat. There's an approach that is not normal. Nobody's picking a lock. No wizards casting knock. Or no other way to open this locked door except to bash the living hell out of it every time. And that, again, to me, that creates a whole new story and a nice memory to look back on, which is pretty cool. So 4 thieves, why not?
Yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're a fair GM,
definitely add some.
Yeah.
It could definitely add a lot of political intrigue with the Thieves Guild and whatnot, depending what idea you already have set up. For things.
That's a good point, and that's where I would just steer towards what people were creating. Like if we did say that there were going to be 4 thieves, 4 rogues as the party, then maybe this party actually is trying to start a new guild, or start a branch of the guild, or got kicked out of the last one, or something.
Yeah.
Something that makes it so that it's tailored to those classes, and maybe it's 3 rogues and a paladin. Right?
The only healer people want to play.
Yeah. So I think we've probably, I didn't really look at when we started, but I think we've probably got a decent amount of time here. You guys got anything else you want to chat about before we wrap it up?
No, I guess
Should
we try to work on get some character ideas before we meet next? Is that the plan?
That's completely up to you, because the next time we get together should be with the full group of 5, and we should have, at that point, like I said, it'll be the stereotypical session 0. We'll be getting together, getting to know each other, setting some expectations, and from there, we should have an idea of what people want for characters before we get together the next time. So if you have an idea now and you just want to run with it, go for it. But it'll definitely be part of the conversation next time.
You could probably definitely do that next time if you want to think more on what you want to do. I will as well, but I like the idea of running with a character that I was thinking of.
Cool.
Joe, I had a question for you that I had last time, but I completely forgot about it. And it's probably nothing, but I was kind of wondering, you switched from saying that this was from Shedcast and then switched it to a Joe Young production. I was curious about that.
So,
is there a story behind that?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I really liked the sound of Shedcast. I could never get the domain name. And so it just went to Adventures from the Shed and adventuresfromtheshed.com. But I went to the One Joe Young thing because I already had those email addresses. And that's I'm One Joe Young on Xbox Live and on PlayStation Network and everywhere and where you can find it. So I figure if I started the streaming, the YouTube, all that, well, that name's already on it. So I just decided I'll throw that at the beginning because somebody has to present it. And originally it was going to be Shedcast, and that was just going to be the name I was using. So I thought it was cool. Originally the podcast was going to be called that. But when I couldn't get that domain name, and this goes back to, gosh, what would it have been now? 2014, 15? The domain had been unused, but the person still had it registered for, I want to say it was like another year or so. And there was a way to send a request to see if you could get the domain next. And I did that a couple of times. And at that point I was thinking, cool, I'm going to be able to get this. And the podcast was going to just be named Shedcast. And, that didn't happen. It fell through before everything started. So I'm like, well, now what?
Man, that stinks.
Come up with
probably some hillbilly owns it. Hi, I'm Steve from Shedcast. You can put your 2x4s and your cement concrete down.
If I remember right, if I remember right, it goes back to, I don't remember if the guy was in the UK or not, but it was a guy who was doing some work on old cars out of the shed in his backyard. So it was something like that.
That's Garage Cast. What does he think?
Yeah, but it was. I mean, there's your semi-long answer to what was really a short question, and it's a shame because it was kind of neat. But now it is what it is. It's now Adventures from the Shed.
AFTS is awesome anyway.
AFTS. Yeah.
AFTS. Yeah.
That just made me think of something else. What was it? Damn it, this happened to me yesterday, too. I had a question and couldn't even remember it. I guess I should say it happens.
Well, Joe, you have a nice AFTS.
I do. It's very nice. And I think Chris knows this one, but this logo was actually designed by Mike Robertson, one of the first guys on the podcast. And
you said he did the table as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So this in black and white, I should say in just black, the vinyl. And he put it onto the table that is with the one we use in the shed. So it's pretty cool. He worked I think he still does, works at a graphic design place. So they make signs and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Is he still running his podcast?
Yeah, they're still doing. They're still kicking it. They're doing pretty good.
I ran Strahd. Now, Randy, you listened to it. Was that last year I did it, or was it the year before?
It was last year because it was technically, I guess, the year before. I listened to it last year because after I went on you guys, I finally remembered what the name of his show was. So I looked it up, and you were finishing it up, I think, January. Yeah.
Okay, that rings a bell because we played that for a while. Because Strahd is Strahd. The Curse of Strahd is not a short adventure.
And now they got talking rabbits and dwarves blowing up left and right.
Yeah, they've always had a more grand scale of things on the Dungeoneers podcast. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So
Good
anything
stuff,
else?
Just excited to do this. This is going to be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to. I've been dying the game for so long now.
Awesome. So
I
what
showed you my dice bag. I'm ready. Let's
Yes.
do this.
Yeah.
And you rolled a 2 earlier, which means you're ready.
Which means I throw that
Off to a
dice
good
away.
start.
That one's gone. Fill
Let's
up
try
the bag
this.
with a new one. I got to go get another bottle of whiskey. So
Well,
I
it's
can have
8. It's better. not
that's
great.
You
4
gotta fire
times
all those
better.
guys.
So my character's going to die.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Just figure out your next backstory. The one who, the junior of the guy that you just killed.
Yeah. So after the bard,
He's one of the sons of the innkeeper.
the bartender, no, what is it? Bard, the bartender.
Yes.
I'm going to have to make that
I
ranger.
tend to bards.
Yeah. This is Bob 2. Cool. So the next thing that you can expect from me over the next day, most likely, it's going to be before the end of the weekend, but over the next day is an email that has all 5 of the first people that we're going to get together, and we'll start looking for a time that works for everybody that we can try and make it 2 hours ish. So that people can say hi, get to know each other a little, and then start talking about the game. So that's the next plan, and that's what should be out in, like I say, the next day. Randy, if you could just remind me in Messenger the right email address to use for you as just a regular email, the one that you check, that would be great.
The one I first sent you was fine.
Okay. Then that's what
I just
I'll
didn't
use.
realize I got an email. I got so many emails on there. I got to delete like 6,000. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'll get that out. And in the meantime, we could wrap this one up. Y'all ready to say bye?
Bye-bye. Penis.
Bye there, bitch.
The preceding podcast was brought to you by onejoeyoung. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com.